Okay, awesome. Miigwech. So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about some general terminologies for different types of people, and also some body part words. Turning my light a little better. I don't know. This room's weird. So, Bodwewadmimwen18 nishwabtuk shechniao. So, Optanibnagizis is the word for July. Literally means halfway through the summer month. Optanibnagizis. And then Nishwabtuk shechniao would be the 24th. Nishwabtuk shechniao. I did make a Quizlet set of some words that we had done in the past, and I'm going to make some more Quizlet ones for you guys going forward. I just need to get in there and make some more review ones for you. I was looking through some of the stuff we've done, and we have talked about a couple of concepts a little more than we have other ones. We've talked about animals a couple of times. We've talked about numbers a couple of times. But I do think that you know your numbers a little bit better, hopefully because of that. And maybe you can even do a little adding and subtracting the language. I don't know. But let me move this box around, because wherever I put this box is where it ends up showing up in the recording. Make sure it's out of the way. Bemadzajuk, people, bemadzajuk. Bemadze is the verb to be alive. When you say bemadzajuk, it's they that are alive. Bemadzajuk. Bemadze again is the verb to be alive, or to be a living creature, if you will. Kekyat is an elder. Kekyajuk are elders. Kekyajuk. And then Penoje is a child. Penojeyak are children. Penojeyak. Gabakwanani squadem. Miigwech. Penoje, again, Penoje is child. Penojeak are children. Penojes is a baby. Penojes. Penojesuk are babies. Penojesuk are babies. Gigabe is a boy. Gigabek or Gigabeyuk are boys. Gigabe or Gigabek or Gigabeyuk are boys. Gigyago is a girl. Gigyagok, girls plural, or Gigyagoyuk. Sometimes you'll also hear Quest, like a little woman when talking about a girl, Quest. And there's also some more specific terms. Hold on one second. And there's a few other real specific terms for like ages of young ladies. And I think I'm going to cover those in just a second, so I don't want to steal my own thunder. But again, gigabe, boy, gigabek, gigabeyuk, boys, gigyagoyuk, girls. Nene is a man. Nunwuk or nunweek or men plural. Nunwuk or nunweek. Kwe is a woman. Kwe. Kwek or kwewuk are women. Kwek or kwewuk, women. Kiwezi is an old man. Kaweziyuk are old men. Kawezi is a funny word. People always hear that word and they think like crazy old man. Kawezi, but it's really not what it's talking about. It's actually talking about literally, like the way it was described to me was old earth animal. Ki or k being like the earth, and then wesi being an animal. So kawezi, an old earth animal. There's another word that sometimes you'll hear in the South for an old man, which is kachini. Kachini is another one. And of course, a lot of folks will just use kind of terms of endearment when they're talking about older people, perhaps in their community. You might call somebody a mishomis, just like you might call someone a nokmas, even if they're maybe not your biological relative, just in kind of a respect thing like that. So kawezi, and then kaweziyak, old men, kaweziyak. Mdemmoze is an old woman. Mdemmozeyak is old women. Mdemmozeyak. And then there's another one, Mdemmozi. I'm trying to think of it. What is it? It's like cute little Mdemmopi. Mdemmopi is like a cute little old lady. Mdemmopi. I don't have that one on here, but so again, you have kekyat, kekyat, kekyajuk, plural, kekyajuk. Penoje is a child, penojek. Now, there are some other terms for like your children. Since I have a lot of children, I know a lot of terms for children, but you can say like my child, so like Nijan, Nijan Suk, my children, Nijan Suk, Nijanis, my child. And then that one changes kind of like it does with body parts. So Gijanis would be your child, Gijan Suk would be your children. But Pinoge is just a kind of a general way of saying child. And you can also use it when you're talking about like my child. I could say like Nepinoge, my child, Nepinoge, Nepinogeak, my children, Nepinogeak, or Nijan Suk. Let's see, Pinoges, baby, Pinogesic. There's also kind of a slang word people will use, BBs. BBs is another way you can talk about a baby. You can say BBs or Pinoges. Pinoges, when you see that S on the end of a word in Potawatomi, it's always talking about something that's young or small. So, for example, if you have like I don't know, maybe like a Nemosh is a dog. Nemoshes is one way you can say like a puppy or a small dog. Nemoshes. And so you can add that. That's what that S is doing on Pinoges. You're saying like a small child, a baby, a Pinoges. It makes me think of another word, Gigich. Gigich is like crybaby. And Gigich, I don't have that on there, but it's kind of a slang way of talking about somebody who's like a crybaby because you can add that gigich. You hear that on a lot of words that talk about like somebody's aching. Like you said, my back aches. You can say gigich pakwane, my back aches. Gigich pakwane. So when you're saying somebody's, you're saying gigich to somebody, you're saying they're kind of like they're always complaining about something. They're always griping and complaining. They're being a crybaby about something. So gigich. I don't have that on here, but again, nene. Nene is a man, nene, nenwuk or nenweek or min, nenwuk or nenweek. Now, one thing I will note here is on a lot of words, you'll see an abe indicating like the male of the species. So like yabe, yabe is a buck. You see that abe indicating like the male of the species. Nishnabe, it's kind of like mankind, Nishnabe, but it's got that abe on there as well. But also on like the word, what is that word here? Nabesi. Nabesi is a rooster. It's got that abe on there too. So sometimes you'll see that on or even the word nabam. It's kind of the slang word that we use for talking about my husband. Literally, literally my stallion, nabam. But it's got that abe on there too, that indicating that male of it. So kwe again is woman. Kwe, kwek or kwewuk, kwek or kwewuk, either one works. Kawezi, old man, literally old earth animal. Kawezi, kaweziuk, old men. Kaweziuk. Demmoze, demmozeuk, old women. That demmoze is an interesting word. I've heard different people explain that word over the years. One person had indicated they thought maybe that was a borrowed term, perhaps from the wimtagoji from the French, that from the word mademoiselle. But I've also heard it kind of like as the one who kind of keeps things together or kind of keeps it all together. Because a lot of times in our communities, the older ladies in our communities really are the ones that kind of hold the community together, or the family, if you will. So demmoze, yuck. Go to my next slide here. And if you guys have any questions as we're going along, I'll try to keep my eye up here. Please don't hesitate to ask. Kenomagwit is a teacher. Sometimes you'll also hear Keknomagwit or Keknomagwit for a teacher. Kenomagwejuk, teachers plural. Kenomagwejuk. Kenomage is the verb to teach. If you say Kenomawa, you're teaching somebody. But Kenomagwet, teacher. Kenomagwejuk. Shemaganeshi is a soldier. And we have a number of words for soldiers and warriors. mainly because, I mean, we were definitely a very, well, we were good warriors. I mean, that's really the only way to put it. We were good warriors. We were always involved in some kind of battle or fighting. We were always one that different groups would seek out. If they wanted help with something, they always looked for us to help them out. So, you know, we say Shemaganeshi for a soldier, Shemaganeshiak. Now, this one actually has a literal meaning. It's talking about Shemagan is like it's like a spear. But what it's literally talking about here is it's talking about the bayonets that the soldiers they would carry. You know, back in the old days, you had the muskets and you had like the little like almost spear-like thing that would be on the end of a musket, and it talks about those bayonets in a way. That Shemaganeshi, Shemaganeshiak. So you know, today's modern soldiers sometimes they'll have those on there as well, but probably a lot more common in the early days, a long time ago, to have those bayonets on there. Ogichida. Ogichida is a warrior. Ogichida, Ogichidak, another way to say warrior, or plural, sorry, warrior is plural, Ogichidak. I just don't have my S in English on there, Ogichidak. But there's another couple words for warriors. You can also say Manisno is one that comes to mind. I didn't write in here. Manisno is another word for a warrior. I've heard that name before. I've heard Manisnoque for like a warrior woman, for one word for warrior woman, Manisnoque. But there's also Menzabe. Menzabe is like a great warrior, kind of an accomplished warrior, Menzabe. But there's a lot of words for, like I said, for war and for going to war. And it's funny because people will say sometimes, you know, why is it that the Potawatomis never seem to end up in the history books? You know, you look at different tribes, they're always talking about like the Cherokee Trail of Tears. They're talking about this or that. Why is it that the Potawatomis or Anishinaabe people kind of as a whole don't end up in the history books? And maybe they do in Canada, I don't know. But in the States, they never seem to mention Potawatomis. And I kind of always joke about that because it seems like, you know, we're not one of those tribes that people usually will go, oh, I'm a Potawatomi. Because if they're not Potawatomi, they don't really know how to say Potawatomi. Even just Potawatomi, they'll be like, I'm a Potawatomi. They know Cherokee, they know Lakota, they know these different tribes. But what it is what I was told by one elder is that it seems like we were always on the wrong side of the battle. We were always fighting. So like when the French were involved in things, we were fighting for the French. When the French kind of got defeated by the British, well, we turned and started fighting for the British. But when the British took on the Americans, most of us sided with the British. And then there were even Potawatomis that were actually in Mexico that were fighting on the Mexican side against the Texans when Texas was fighting Mexico. So, but the thing about Potawatomi people is it seems like we were always involved in these wars, but the hard thing for our people, I think, was that we were always winning. And so it's hard for us to understand why we had to like sign treaties and basically surrender, because all of the battles that we fought around the Great Lakes, around that area, we won. Like we won all these battles. They lost most of these wars like in Europe or on the East Coast, like with their battleships and whatnot. And so, you know, so they like to kind of ignore us in that way. And I guess we're not one of the civilized tribes. Down here in Oklahoma, we have the 5 civilized tribes: the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Seminoles, Choctaws, the Chickasaws, and they like to focus in on those groups, I guess, because they kind of fell into line, I guess. And Potawatomis really never fell into line. We just kind of went different directions, as you guys are well aware. Some of us, when they tried to remove us, some fled into Canada, some went deep into Canada. Some of us fled into the forest way up in the woods of Wisconsin, Michigan. Some of us got rounded up, and again, they had to round us up and march us with soldiers down to Kansas, and then finally into Oklahoma at some point later on. So it was never an easy thing dealing with the Potawatomis. In fact, the Potawatomi tribe as a whole is the most treated tribe in U.S. history, actually. I believe we signed over 40, I think it's 44 treaties maybe with the U.S. government. But we also signed a number of treaties with Great Britain, and we signed a couple with France before that, because we were always involved in these different conflicts. But I'm rambling, I apologize. So lots of words for warriors, and nonetheless. Mjinkionane is a policeman. Mjinkionane. Mjinkiokwe is a policewoman. Mjinkiokwe. That Mjinki is talking about the guy who arrests you or kind of grabs you. I mean, I know that might not be the best representation maybe of a police officer, but I mean, they're the ones that arrest you, the ones that kind of that grab you. Mjinkionane. In fact, there's a variation of that word. I think it's Mjingo, if I recall correctly, is a word for son-in-law, the one who got grabbed. One who got grabbed. But Mjinkionane, a policeman, Mjinkiokwe, a policewoman. Mshkukionane is a doctor. But of course, traditionally, that would have been more like literally like a medicine person, a medicine man. But of course, even when it comes to talking about traditional medicine, things like that, we had, obviously, they're not all created equal. You know, we have different people that did, and that were really good with, obviously, with plants and working with herbs. We had people that would run ceremonies and call in the spirits and things like that. So we had different types of medicine people. It wasn't just kind of one shoe fit all, if you will, when you're talking about medicine people. And that's something that gets confused a lot with, I think, non-indigenous people. They think it's just kind of like this one thing, and they also get confused. I think even some native people can get confused, thinking that there's some kind of like hierarchy, if you will. I mean, yeah, but you know, when it comes to doing ceremonies, it comes to our basic fundamental beliefs, they're very personal, they're very individual. I mean, you know, you don't need a person to smudge off, you know, someone in particular, or in other beliefs it seems different. But I'm rambling again. Shkinwe is a young man, and this word actually describes the change of that young man's voice. That no way is a sound. It's a sound that you make. We even use that word when we talk about like Denwe Mog and my relative, the ones that make a similar sound as I. That no way, and that shka indicates something new or something fresh. So what it's really talking about is it's talking about a young man who's kind of come of age. You know, he's kind of hit puberty, probably in his like 12, 13, depending on. I mean, kids seem like they grow up faster and faster these days, but Shkinwe, young man. Nichnishnabe, my fellow native, my fellow Potawatomi, Nichnishnabe. Now, if you were talking to a group of people, you could just say Nichnishnabe, my fellow natives, my fellow Potawatomis, Nichnishnabe. That Nich indicates mine. If I was saying like your fellows, it changes. It'd be Gichnishnabe. Some of these words, they'll change based on who's actually talking about it. But usually we use it, it's usually Nichnishnabe or Nichnishnabe, my fellow natives, my fellow Potawatomis. Nabawachaget, visitor, Nabawachageja, visitors, Nabawachagejuk, visitors. Wiye is someone, wiye. Chowiye is no one, chowiye. So again, wiye is someone, chowiye, no one. So let's go through these words one more time here. Kenomagwet, Kenomagwejuk, Shamaganeshi, Shamaganeshiyuk, Shamaganeshiyuk, Ogichidak, Mjinkionane, policeman, Mjinkiokwe, policewoman, Mjinkiokwe, Mshkukionane, doctor, Mshkukionane. Now, this is where it kind of can get complicated sometimes. I meant to mention this. Some of these jobs, like doctor and things like that, a lot of times it was a guy that would have that job. Now, sometimes you say Mshkukionane, like I didn't put that one there because sometimes people think that's a nurse. Now, it's not meant to be that way, but it's just like the other way you could do it is you could be like Mshkuki. You could say like Mshkuki Ket, one who works with medicines, another way you could say it. But a lot of these terminology, you'll see that nene on the end. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily a man that does that. I mean, you could be a woman doing that position as well. But what it comes down to is like my mother, the way that she told me about, you know, my mother's was born in the 40s, but a lot of the younger ladies today don't realize that this is kind of the way it was, that at one time when you were a woman, I mean, the only job that you really could have is like as a teacher, a nurse, and a secretary. Those were the main professions that a lot of young ladies were able to go into. and it just was never even seen as a possibility that a person could go into some of the amazing fields you can go in today. And it's I think it's wonderful that the world has finally opened up in that way. But so because of that, some of these terminology sometimes that like mshkukio nane, like for certain people, they'll use it. Like I've even heard people go mshkukio nane kwe to indicate like a female doctor, mshkukio nane kwe. And I'm like, okay. So just kind of be aware that that's kind of something that you may hear, particularly with perhaps some of the older speakers too. I mean, you may hear them use mshkukio nane for a doctor, whether you're a female doctor or a male doctor, just FYI. Shkenwe again, Shkenwe, young man, Shkenwe. Nishnishnabe, my fellow native, or plural, Nichnishnabe, Nabawachaget, a visitor, Nabawachagejuk, visitors. Wiye, someone. Showiye, no one. And let me put those other words for warrior up in the chat box, actually, that I mentioned, just in case anyone's interested. Menisno is another word for warrior. And also, let me see, Menzabe is like a great warrior. Menzabe, Menisno. So, and if you were saying warrior woman, which is a name that I've actually heard on some, or heard in, well, I've heard people that have that name, but I've also seen it on some of the old treaties too, and that's like Menisnokwe, like warrior woman, like that. There we go. Those are some of those words that I had mentioned a minute ago. I think that was the only ones I mentioned. But I did forget to put young lady on here for some reason. Maybe it's on the next slide. If it's not, I got to come back. I'll add that one to it real quick. Let me see here. Okay, let me see real quick. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. So I'll make sure I got it. Okay, so now I've made a few sentences of some of these words. I know some of these sentences may seem a little long. I didn't mean to, I promise. It's one of those things you start making a sentence that just kind of grows. So you have to, but I'll work through the entire sentence with you so you can see it. Here we go. Jaya kekyajak biawisnuk. All elders come and eat. Jaya kekyajak biawisnuk. All elders come eat. Kekyajak netum. Elders first. Kekyajak netum. So this would be something you could say if you're trying to get kind of the attention and kind of let your elders know, hey, we're getting ready to eat. Jaya kekyajak biawisnuk. All elders come eat. And then kind of letting everybody know. Kekyajak netum. Elders first. Kekyajak netum. And, you know, always traditionally, if you have elders out there in your community that can't get up, or for whatever reason, maybe they can't get over to get their food, a young person should always come over and ask them if they can get them a plate or bring them a plate and before you go get your own. So, Demmozene gada majitwa anit mijum. Demmozene gada majitwa anit mijum. Could you take that old woman some food? Demmozene kada majitwa anet mijim. So let me go through this first word so we can kind of break it apart. So jayak means everyone, jayak. Kekyajak, or elders. That biawisnik is saying, come eat. You're telling them, come eat. And then kekyajak, elders. Netum, first. So you're letting everybody know netum is first, elders first. Kekyajak netum. Demmozene kada majitwa anit mijum. Demmozene kada majitwa anit mijum. So old lady question, literally, could you take her some anet, some food, some mijum? So could you take that old woman some food? Demmozene kada majitwa anit mijum. Nipije eje jiptibet. Nipije eje jiptibet. Where is she sitting? Yes. Yes. Nipija, where? Eja, roundabout, like location-wise. Jeep Tibet, she's sitting. And that could actually be he or she sitting. You know it's she because that's who we were talking about before that. So, Nipija Eja Jeep Tibet, where is she sitting? Nijetso gon gazette o kapenojes. Nijetso gon gazette o kapenojes. How many days old is your baby? Nijetso gongazet o gapenojes. Gongaze means days old. Nijetso, how much or how many. Gongazet, so how old, how many days old. O gapenojes, your baby. Gapenojes. Nishwaptek gongaze. Nishwaptek gongaze. 20 days old. Nishwaptek gongaze. 20 days old. Gigyagone Kenmane. Do you know that girl? Gigyagone Kenmane. Do you know that girl? Gigyagone Kenmane. Do you know that girl? Chowikan gin kwashkwasi o gigyago. Chowikan gin kwashkwasi o gigyago. I've never met that girl. Chowika nagin kwashkwasi o gigyago. So cho is the no. The wika means ever, so never. Chowika, never. Nagin kwashkwasi. Kweshkwa is the verb to meet someone. It's a VTA type verb. That nagi, I did, and then kweshkwa, meet him or her, and then that C at the end tells you did not do it. So the cho along with the C lets you know it didn't happen. So I never met her, that girl. So chowika nagin kweshkwa si o gigyago. I've never met that girl. Now, if you did meet them, then it would be no, the cho wouldn't be there. You would just say nagin kweshkwa o gigyago. I've met that girl. Nagin kweshkwa o gigyago. I've met that girl. Nijigaja webuk. What happened? Let me move my little, hold on, I have to move this image of this video around real quick. Otherwise, it's going to block it later. Okay. Nijigaja webuk. What happened? Jinkio nanwik ikiba dawao gumgok. The police are over at the store. Nijigaja webuk. Nijigaja webuk. Nijigaja webuk. What happened? That jawebuk is something happened. Nijigaja webuk. So what happened? Nijigaja webuk. Mjinkio nanwik ik iba dawao gumgok. The police are over at the store. So Mjinkio nanwik, that's your police, plural. That ik is actually really interesting. It's actually the verb ye, ye, and it changes to ik in the they form. It's kind of irregular in that way. So the verb is actually ye, to be in a certain location, but in the they form it turns to ik. Iba means over there. Iba. Dawao gumgok, at the store. Dawao gumgok. Dawe means to sell. So that dawe part with the gumuk with it means the place where things are sold, hence the store. When it's gumgok, it's at the store. So Nijagaja webuk mjinkio nanwik ik iba dawao gumgok. What happened? The police are over at the store. Bakwanan ishkwadem wiye shoda. Bakwanan ishkwadem wiye shoda. Again, I'm just making senses of these vocabulary we had before. This isn't a connected story, I guess. Is the point. There wasn't like a kid, an elder, and then a police. It's just they're just sentences related to the words we had before. Bakwanan ishkwadem wiye shoda. Open the door. Someone is here. Bakwanan ishkwadem. So bakwanan is the command saying, open it, that door. Bakwanan ishkwadem wiye shoda. Someone is here. Wiye is someone and shoda here. So bakwanan ishkwadem wiye shoda. Open the door. Someone is here. Nija ejnakazot o kenomagwet. Nija ejnakazot o kenomagwet. What's the name of that teacher? Nija ejnakazot o kenomagwet. What's the name of that teacher? That ejnakazot, that part comes to the verb shinkazo. He or she is called something. Nija ejnakazot o kenomagwet. What is the name of that teacher? Bonjour, Nich Nishnabek. Hello, my fellow Nishnabek. Bonjour, Nich Nishnabek. So this might be something that you might want to use at a meeting or a gathering of people, just kind of greeting people. Hey, bonjour, Nich Nishnabek. Hello, my fellow Nishnabek. Bonjour, Nich Nishnabek. So one more time, just so you can hear some of these words again. I'll just go through. I'm not going to do the English, so I'm just going to say it in Potawatomi, let you kind of hear the words a little bit, okay? Jaya kekyajak biawisnuk. kekyajak netam. Mdemmozene gada majitwa anet mijum. Ni pije eje jiptibet. Ni jetso gongezet o kapenojes. Ni schwabtak gongeze. Gigyagone gekenma. Oh, that's, I have another nay in there. Scana. I didn't say that the last time, but it's in there. I made a typo. I wrote my thing. Didn't even notice I wasn't saying it, but that second nay does not belong in there. So it should just be gigyagone gekenma. Scana. Chowikan gin kweshkwasi o gigyago. Chowikan gin kweshkwasi o gigyago. I've never met that girl. Nisha gajaweba. Mjinkio nan week ik iba dawao gumgok. Nisha gajaweba. Mjinkio nan week ik iba dawao gumgok. Bakwana nishkwadem. Bakwana nishkwadem. We shora. Nisha ejna kazot o keno magwet. Nije ejna kazot o keno magwet. Bojo nich nishnabek. Bojo nich nishnabek. Okay, a few more people terms or different groups of people. Chamokman is how we say a white man or an American here in the U.S. side. You may have heard Jaganash or Jaganashi. But Jaganash can mean British, it can mean Canadian. It has several meanings to it. It's actually talking about the way that it kind of came in on the wind, if you will. Jaganashi. But Chimokman is how we say like an American or a white person, I guess, in the United States. We say Chimokman. It literally means long knife. A lot of these words have a literal meaning. So what it means is because some of the first non-indigenous people that we ran into, they would carry they'd either have those long sabers or they'd have those long deals on their guns. So we call them long knives. Chimokman being one. Jaganash or Jaganashi. Jaganashiuk, British or Canadian. Sesksi is a young lady. Now this is like Shkenwe. It's like a young woman who's kind of hit puberty. It's kind of that coming of age type time. With Shkenwe, it's talking about a change in the voice. Sesksi, not to be confused with suksi. Suksi is a deer. Sesksi is a young lady. Sesksi, like a teenager. Sesksiyuk, teenagers. Nijanis, again, Nijanis is my child. Nijanis. Nijansuk, my children. Nijansuk. Nidikweom is my wife or my lady, my woman. Nidikweom. There's actually a few different ways to talk about your spouse. You can call them your wiet, which is talking about how you're tied together. Sometimes when people refer to marriage, they'll say like Weejaway, like the one who kind of goes along with me. Weejaway, the one that kind of accompanies me, I guess, goes with me. You'll also hear Niwesh, sometimes another way to say that. There's a lot of words for your spouse or your significant other. Nabam, my husband. Nabam, literally my stallion. Nabam. Again, there's different words for that as well. That's one I've always enjoyed that one. I thought that one's funny. I think what makes that one so funny to me is when I had an old man tell me the story about this particular word. And I don't remember if I shared this story or not, but he was telling me about he lived up in Wisconsin, did a lot of logging and stuff, and he had an uncle who worked in this logging camp. He was married to a Chimokman woman, and she wanted to bring him his lunch one day to work. He was kind of a logging site, and there were a lot of Anishinaabe people that worked at this logging camp. So he had other relatives and cousins and things that spoke the language that worked in this logging community, and but she wanted to kind of get his attention and she really wanted to say his Indian name and to kind of get his attention, kind of yell out to him. And she asked some of his relatives, what is his Indian name? And, what's my husband's Indian name? I don't know it. I want to kind of yell it out when I get over there to the work site so he knows who I'm talking about. Like I think his name was Joe or something. There's a bunch of Joes that work over there. I wanted to make sure if she yelled out his Indian name, she'd know who it was or he'd know it was him. And they said, well, your husband's A name is Nabam. And then she was like, okay. She kind of practiced it. And some of the relatives helped her. Okay, nah, bam, nah, bam. Got it. I got it. So she got this nice lunch pail of food together. She went out there to the work site and gets out there. Nah, bam, nah, bam. And all of his relatives that worked out there, they just busted out laughing and just thought that was the funniest thing. And he come up to her and she's like, well, nah, bam, that's your Indian name, right? And he said, no, that literally means my stallion. Nah, bam, but it's another way of saying husband, but yeah. So that word, because of that story, I never forget that word. That's always the one that I always remember, like I said. But there's other words talking about your spouse or your husband, if you will. If you don't like that particular word, I've always enjoyed that word. I think it's funny when a word has a background history or like a story to it. Naganzit. Naganzit is a leader. Naganzejuk. Obviously, also Wugamajuk. Sometimes people say Ogamak. That's also like a leader, a chief. But this literally means like the one who's out front, the one who leads the way. Naganzit, the one who's kind of out to the front. I know this is what's interesting about this word is obviously this is different than the way perhaps the military is today. Usually the leader is not the front. They're the guy that's like back at camp while they send everybody else out. And they're like, but the leader's that one traditionally, that's that one that's leading the way. They're right there in their mix. They're moving right out to the front of the battle. They're right in there. Naganzejuk leaders, Naganzejuk, which is kind of how we want our leaders to be. We want our leaders to be those people that are out there, that are accessible. They're out front. They're not the people that are back here hiding behind doors. They're out there advocating for our people, just making their way out there. Naganzejuk. Shishibani is the word that we have for citizen Potawatomi. These are just a couple of terms for some of the different groups of Potawatomi you may run into. Shishibani is citizen Potawatomi. Shishibani, it means duck people. There's a story behind all these words, but Mishkodani is the Prairie Band Potawatomi, and they're down in Kansas. They got removed to Kansas, and they're Mishkodaniak. And then I missed ones. Kasinyani, or the Forest County Potawatomi, Kasinyaniak. But there's terms for different groups of Potawatomis. And this one, Kasinyani, really just means the northern people. And if you'll notice that each of these words has that ni on the end of it, it kind of indicates like the people that are from that. The Shishibani are the one, they're duck people. And they said that there's a couple of stories about this word. I'll try to make this fast because I know it's not necessarily that interesting to folks. But so they used to say that we were really good on the water, really like ducks in the water, if you will. But the other story about this word is that a lot of the citizen Potawatomis got converted early on to Catholicism. And a lot of the priests, when they would convert someone, they used to put these like collars on their necks. And they said it looked like a certain type of duck. And so that was the other word for the reason for that word. I wasn't there, so I can't really tell you, but that's just one word for citizen Potawatomi. And then Mishkodani, Prairie Band Potawatomi, literally Mishkode means prairie. Shkode is how we say fire. Mishkode is the prairie. I know the words are very close because Mishkode literally means that burned over area. Because back in the days, I guess they used to light them on fire or they lit on fire by accident or whatever, but the prairies would get lit on fire, and then a lot of those nutrients and things would kind of get into the soil from lighting those prairies on fire. That's where that word Mishkode comes from. Mishkodani, Mishkodaniak. Migbamadzjuk, a stranger. Migbamadzjuk, strange people. Migbamadzjuk, strange people. Makchawit, a laborer. Makchawijuk, workers plural or laborers plural. This comes from the word mikchawi. Mikchawi is how we say work in Potawatomi. You may have also heard maybe anoki is another word you'll hear sometimes for work. Anoki. There's that other word for old man, kachini, kachiniak, old men, kachiniak. Now this next word is a favorite of mine. I like this word, the big wheel. Kachadet pasay, Kachadet pasayak, the big wheels, the big wheel. Just again, kind of a slang for your boss. But what's fun about this word is if I ever use this word, usually people don't know I'm talking about my boss. So they won't know you're mentioning your boss because it's not your common, it's not Ogama, it's not chief, it's not something like that. It's Kitchadet, say the big wheel. So it's kind of a slang for your boss. Let me move this around. Okay, so that was it for body parts, but I also wanted to cover a little bit about people, but I also wanted to cover some stuff about body parts today too. And I'm not doing all the body parts, but I'm doing quite a few of them, I think. Let me see if I can move this in the right spot. Bam. So body parts are usually possessed in Bodwewadmi. Just like the way relative terms are, it's somebody's body parts, my arm, your arm, his arm. It's their head, his head. It's somebody. It's not just random body parts laying around your village, if you will. It belongs to somebody, whether it's still attached or not. So when you see an N on it, it usually indicates my body part, or my arm, my leg. If you see a G on it, it usually indicates you or yours. And then sometimes you'll see like a W on third person, but sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes it's like EN at the end. But the main ones you see are mine and yours. Usually you're not talking about like you all's body, you all this. It's not as common to talk about that kind of stuff. So Nuk is my arm. Nukin, my arms. Nukin. Najosh is my nose. Najosh, good Josh is your nose. Good Josh. Nakat, my leg. Nakadin, my legs. Nakadin. Nenech, my hand. Ninjin, my hands. Ninjin. Nizet, my foot. Nizidin, my feet. Nizidin, my feet. Nimiset, my stomach. Gimiset, your stomach. Gimiset. So one thing that makes body parts easy to remember is if you ever get a chance to play like Simon Says with people, that's one fun way to remember your body parts. And if you got like kids or things like that or grandkids, you might be like Simon, Kado, Dognan, Gajosh. Simon said, touch your Josh. Simon, Kado, Dognan, Ganek, touch your arm. Simon, Kado, Dognan, Maset, touch your stomach. We'll have to play Simon Says one day, and make sure we get everybody on camera. Make sure everybody turns their cameras on. We can play Simon Says. So Nuk, Nucken, Josh, Nakat, Nakadin, Nech, Ninjin. This one's funny because I heard some people. I don't know why they associate this, but they associate with like ninja, like. So I always do like this, ninjin. So that's one way to remember. It's like if you think of like the way a ninja is like chopping, ninjin. Nizit, my foot. Nizit, Nizidin, my feet. Nizidin, Nimizet, Gimiset, your stomach. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Move it down here. So remember how I said S a lot of times indicates something smaller. So like fingers, just like the word for hand. Hand was nech. Nechis is your finger. And then nechisen, fingers. Don is your mouth. Gadon is your mouth. So nadon, my mouth. Gadon, your mouth. Donus are lips. Donus. Dep is my head. Dep. Now there's two words for head. Dep is technically the back of your head. So and I imagine that had something to do with maybe that, like maybe back when people would get like scalped. I mean, the back of your head versus shtagwan being like the whole thing. Shtagwan. But dep is a little shorter word, and so sometimes it's easier for people to remember that dep. You also tend to see dep inside of verbs. And when it's in a verb type way, it's like depe. So if I said like kikich debe, my head aches, kikich debe. Or if I even if you're talking about like the color of somebody's hair, there's a couple ways you can do it, but you can say wapshka debe. So white-headed, mshkwandebe, mshkwandebe. Redhead, mshkwandebe. Wizowdebe, wizowdebe. Blonde or yellow-headed, but it's got that depth, that debe inside of it. Turns to more of a B when it's the verb. So nadep, my head. Gedep, your head. Nebit, nebit is one tooth. Gibit would be your tooth. Like somebody lost it. Hey, you lost your tooth. Your gibit. Then neebtin, neebtin are my teeth. Neebtin. I'm sure hoping I don't have anything in my teeth when I'm doing this. Giebtin, your teeth. Giebtin, your teeth. So neebit, my tooth. Neebtin, my teeth. Weebit would just be his or her tooth. Weebit. So giebit, your tooth. Giebtin, your teeth. Weebtin, his or her teeth. So as you can see from this one word, some of these words that the stuff is right on the front of it where it changes the actual word. So the neebit being mine, giebit being yours, weebit being his or her. So they'll change based on who's doing it. I know those can seem a little complicated. My best suggestion here would be kind of either learn the my form or just learn the third person form, like the weebit form, if that's easier. Okay. And I think that was all the parts I wanted to work on today. When it comes to body parts, there's a lot more body parts, and we could have several more classes. You can do like Dosquin, Denmagen, Puckwin, Kake. Then you can get into the internal organs. Shkwe is like blood. Shkweop is like an artery. Weendep is your head, is your brain, not your head. Your brain is Weenindep is your brain. Tog is your ear. Togen or ears. That one I would have been good at. Togen. Domkin is your chin. We'll do some more body parts kind of going forward. I didn't want to do too many body parts. I've kind of already introduced quite a bit of people terms and then some body parts. But I did have a little bit I wanted to review kind of briefly with you. Briefly, yeah. Okay, I always overdo it, but I apologize. Partly because Zamdone, I talk too much. So there's that don for mouth, that Zamdone, too much mouth. Okay. Demonstrative, this, that, and those. These come up all the time in sentences. It's this bed, it's that bed, it's that lamp over there, it's that person, these people. So you just have to remember there's an animate form and there's an inanimate form of these. And then there's a plural and a singular form. So on the animate side, it's Oda, this. And I'm going to go ahead and pick somebody to talk about. So we'll say this person, Bamadzit. Oda Bamadzit, this person. O Bamadzit, that person. Now that one's, they're not close. That Oda is like you can reach out and touch them. O Bamadzit, that person a little further away. Agol Bamadzit, that person way over there. Agol Bamadzit. And again, that's perception of the speaker. If you're in a closed-in room, way over there might be against the wall. If you're out in a field, way over there might be as far as you can see. Goda Bamadzajuk, these people. Goda Bamadzajuk, they're like within arm's reach. Goda Bamadzajuk. Gi Bamadzajuk, those people over there. Gi Bamadzajuk. Egi Bamadzajuk, those people way over there. Egi Bamadzajuk. Now I'm going to use a Dopewin table for talking about inanimate. So Oda Dopewin, this table, Oda Dopewin, E Dopewin, that table over there, E Dopewin, E Dopewin, that table way over there, E Dopewin. And then for the plural, you got Noda Dopewinin, these tables, something within arm's reach, Noda Dopewinin, Ni Dopewinin, these tables that are not right here, but a little further away. And then any Dopewinin, those tables way over there. So kind of the generic one is always the middle one. So like the O for the animate, the Gi, and then the E for the inanimate, and the Ni, that's kind of the generic because it's neither close nor very far away. It's the in between. So everything in between there is going to be those middle ones. So if you only can remember one of them, I would remember the O for like that person, Obamadzit, and then the Gi for the plural for animates, like Gi Bamadzajik, and E, that like table E, Dopewin, and then Ni, those ones probably come up more often than any of the others. But the next most common is probably the close ones, because there's some other things you can do when talking about things far away. Sometimes people will incorporate instead of using the demonstrative line. But these are good to know because they pop up almost all the time in sentences. Usually you don't sit a noun in there without having one of these demonstratives as part of it. So it's always an indication that there's a noun right behind it, whether it be like a person, a place, a thing, something like that right behind it. And then real quick before we finish off, I wanted to go over these patterns again. These patterns are so fundamental to speaking the language effectively. So maji is the verb to leave. Namaji, I am leaving. Gamaji, you're leaving. Maji, he or she is leaving. Namaji men, we but not you, are leaving. Gamaji men, we all are leaving. Gamajim, you all are leaving. Majik, they are leaving. And then the conjunct form, which you use when you're asking those who, what, when, where type questions, like why are you leaving? Where are you, when are you leaving? Things like that. Maji yan, I'm leaving. Maji yin, you're leaving. Majit, he or she is leaving. Maji yak, we but not you are leaving. Maji ago, we are all leaving. Maji yuk, you all are leaving. Maji wat, they are leaving. Finally, the command form, when you're telling someone to leave. When it's with these basic AI verbs, you just put an in on it to change it to a command telling one person. If you're telling a group of people, you just add a K to it. So majin, telling one person, leave. Majin. Majik, you all leave. Majik. Now, if you're telling somebody not to leave, you have a gago and you have a can or a cac on there. Let me move this around because it's covering up part of it. Let me try to move it to the side here. I'll scan out what happened. Time out. Let me move this up so it's out of the way. Okay, maybe. There we go. Gago maji can, don't leave, telling one person. Gago maji kak, don't you all leave. Gago maji can, don't leave. Gago maji kak, don't you all leave. Okay. And it looks like that's what I had for today. I apologize. I thought this would go a little longer, but I'm about a couple minutes short. Let me see. Does anybody have any questions about any of this stuff that you want to ask? Or if you have any thoughts about some of the stuff maybe from the past class, we talked about prayer words and prayer terminologies and things. Anybody have any questions about that stuff? I'll try to make some more Quizlets. I made one Quizlet for some of the stuff we've had in the past. I also want to make sure that I need to put all the PowerPoints into a Dropbox and then share a link. That way you guys can get all of the PowerPoints that we've done up to this point. Let's see what else. I know we put a few more up online. I think I can't figure how far up we had them carrying. We had several more online. I think maybe up to 11 or 12, maybe to 10.
It's 10.
10. Okay, we had up to 10 then online. So I'll try to get some more of these online as well, so you guys can watch them over again. Apologize about the lighting in here. Again, I'm traveling. I didn't realize how this was going to work out. It's there's no like light above me in this hotel. It's just like this. This doesn't make very good light. There's a window behind me, but that doesn't seem to work either. So I apologize for that. Yeah. So again, these kind of things right here, this independent and this conjunct pattern, to me, and then those demonstratives, you can get those items down, you really can start speaking effectively really fast. In fact, the other thing I might mention with these conjunct and independent is then there's the past and the future that can be added to them. So for example, gi in the past for the independent, so I'd say gimaji, I left. Gimaji, you left. Gimaji, he or she's leaving. Nagimajiman, we but not you are leaving. Gimajiman, we all are leaving. Gimajim, you all are leaving. Gimajik, they're leaving. So that gi is used for the past for those independents. With the conjunct ones, it's ga, usually. Ga or egi, that indicates the past. And then with the future, when you're talking about something that's happened in the future, it's we. So nawimaji, I'm going to leave. Gawimaji, you're going to leave. Wimaji, he or she is going to leave. Bodwewadmimwen18, we but not you are going to leave. Bodwewadmimwen18, we all are going to leave. Bodwewadmimwen18, you all are going to leave. Bodwewadmimwen18, they are going to leave. And then the conjunctus, it's ewi or wa for the future. So ewi-maji-yan, ewi-maji-in, ewi-maji-t, ewi-maji-yak, ewi-maji-ago, ewi-maji-yuk, ewi-maji-wat. So, and I will let you know that the language conference tomorrow, I'm going to try to stream some of that stuff. If you guys have not joined, there's a Potawatomi language group. There's about 6,000 people in it. It's just Potawatomi language or Bodwewadmimwen group. I'm going to try to stream some of this language conference into that group. So if you want to check out some of that, it's going to depend who lets me stream it. Some people don't really like streaming their stuff, but I'm going to ask different people. I'll stream my presentation at the very least, and some others. I'll try to get some others streamed in there as well. And I'm also going to try to record the ones that maybe don't want to go live. And that's something I can share up in a Dropbox, or I can put up like on the YouTube channel and then send a link over. So if folks want to watch some of those, yeah. So, and like I said, I guess that's what I got today. Ironically, I finished like 4 minutes early. Usually I can't ever finish on time. So I mean, I guess it's a trade-off in this regard. Like I said, some days it seems like again, zamdone, I talk too much. It's weird because you go through some of these words and they remind you of other things, and you find yourself going down other little segments or little stories that relate to some of those words. Sometimes it's helpful though. I think it helps connect some of those words and to understand some of the breaking apart. In fact, I think I want to do another one of those classes about breaking words apart. I think that's fun. I know we did one about like the water words and the wind words, how the parts mean things. I think that might be what we do next class, is do a little bit about breaking words apart, because once you start to understand those parts of words, then you can hear a word again that you've never heard in your life, and you can kind of take an educated guess what that word is. Like, oh, okay, that's talking about this, if you don't know exactly, because you understand the parts. So I think next class, that's what I'm gonna do. Do another class on breaking some of these words apart, because I think that stuff is pretty fascinating. So, and I guess that's it for today. Miigwech, Mama Mina. Oh, make sure there's no questions for us.
Right out there.
No questions up there.
Walking around.
I guess
Miigwech.
nobody was able. Oh, Mama Mina. Mama P.
Miigwech.
Mama P.
Mama.
Mama P.